We know from experience that every solution creates a problem. And this is no different. We went ahead and replaced the standard screw slot end bowl bolts with the hex ones. And guess what? That's pretty good. Yeah. Trying to do that in the camera, that doesn't work. So now our fitting will hit the bolt. And I'm not sure that it won't even hit the screw, but we're going to have to get the fuel line out of it. I think what we can do is trim the fitting down so that it'll screw on there. But always something. I may just pull that screw out of there quickly and put the other one back in just to see if it clears. But every solution creates a problem. Okay, so we did a little quick mod, sort of sanded down the leading edge of these fittings front and rear so they cleared the hex screws on the bowls, and I think we got it, but I'm sure there'll be something else. There always is. So in our continuing saga of the Holley 4-barrel carburetor, we got it all together, and old Bob said, let's put some fuel in it to see if it leaks before we go ahead and put it on the car. Oh, baby, we had fuel coming out everywhere. And I got this piece of cardboard under there now. See if we get any drips on it. But I can see why they went to hex bolts on these end bowls, because I swear I had them tight. But I got the socket and the ratchet and cranked down on those things, and I think we got the leak stopped now. But they are super duper tight, tighter than I normally probably would have made them, especially with the slotted screws. So we've got the bowl almost up to the edge of the little window there. It's enough fuel in it, and we'll just see if any fuel drips on that cardboard overnight. All right, another day, endless days, another carburetor video. The good news is we let this carburetor sit overnight with fuel in the bowl, put this bit of cardboard underneath it, and it's dry as a bone. No drips, no runs, no leaks, no errors. So that's good news. So I think this thing is ready to go back on the car. We still have to come up with our vacuum diaphragm system over here for the secondaries. And I've got a line on another carburetor, and hopefully we can steal that system off that carburetor, put it on this one, and get this thing back to operating like it should, instead of having everything open all at once, because that's not really a good situation for driving on the street. Yeah, we stuck our newly refurbished carburetor back on there, and of course there's nothing fits. So the studs, of course, are too long because we had a big, thick aluminum 1-inch spacer under that carburetor before, and we took that out and put a 1/4-inch phenolic in there, which would be much better. And that changed. This is a fuel pressure gauge pickup here, and there was a big, long affair screwed onto there. So we took that off because the carburetor sits lower, but now the fuel gauge pressure line doesn't hook up. So that's one thing. So then we go around to the other side, and of course we have this extra long inlet fitting, and because the carburetor's lower and all of this tubing is rigid tubing, the fuel line is too long essentially. So what I'm hopeful that I can do is get another one of these short fittings over here and put it over there, and then everything will work. But we'll see. You just can't do anything without creating more problems. And we're back doing a little bit more work on the Pinto. We got our new carburetor fittings installed along with our new carburetor bits, and got our fuel lines tightened up, and the car sat for quite a few days and seems to still have fuel in the fuel bowl. Imagine that. That's good. So the other thing that we did, since we don't have any secondary mechanism on this carburetor, is we bought some used bits on eBay, and you can see I'm right there real close to having the screw fall out. So let me fix that. One of the other screws already fell out. So we bought this vacuum secondary housing. It had the diaphragm in it, but the diaphragm was junk and everything was fouled together. So we got it all apart and we had to order a new diaphragm, and then we soaked all the screws and everything in vinegar, and as soon as we get our new part in, we'll be able to see if we can put that on the carburetor. So we got our little vacuum diaphragm, and you can see we got that one extra little hole there, so you got to get her lined up right. We got the little BB in the hole there, and that hole is for the where the vacuum comes through. We'll go ahead and put the cap on, and maybe we can get our vacuum pump and hook it up there and see if it works. So we got our vacuum pump hooked up there. We'll just put a little vacuum to that, and you can see the arm retracting, and that's what enough hands here. That's what makes your secondaries open. So you see that retracting there. I will say it's particularly aggravating to put that diaphragm in there because you got a spring on the other side of it, and you got to push this thing down. Well, it wants to collapse the diaphragm. It doesn't want to stay in place, and you got to be very careful that you get it flat between the two, sandwiched between the two parts of the housing. So you kind of got to hold it upside down and lay it in there, and then compress the spring, and then hold it down while you line up the bottom of the housing and get the screws in. So that's a little tricky, to be sure, but I think we got it. Looks like it wants to work, so we'll put that aside. Probably ought to put a new gasket in there, and next time we have the carburetor off, we'll stick that puppy on there.